has not been a single year since the start of World War I that the world has not witnessed genocide, where hundreds of thousands of people have been murdered without cause. There are currently over 400,000 dead in Darfur, a Texas-sized region in the Sudan. The Sudan is located in Africa. Its neighboring countries are Chad, Libya, and the Central African Republic. And Darfur is on the westernmost side of Sudan, the green area here. With over 400,000 dead, there are also 2 million more at risk. In countless villages, thousands of lives remain caught in the front lines. 400,000 people have been murdered. 1 million people have been forced to run into other countries. Never again has happened again. And you can help end it. Many of us are not familiar with the problems in the Sudan or in Darfur, but we need to become familiar with them and become concerned about them. There are mass killings going on in this world we live in, and most of us are doing absolutely nothing about it. When in actuality, there is a lot we can do right here from our home. Understanding what is going on in Darfur is the first step to helping its citizens. This crisis in Darfur began in 2003. It happened when two rebel groups, the Sudanese Liberation Army Movement, or SLAM, and the Justice and Equality Movement, JEM, rose up against the President al-Bashir, and in response, he sent his military, or the Janjaweed, which is translated to devil on horseback, against these movements. They have used violence, murder, rape, and torture against these innocent people. And the Sudanese military paint their aircraft white, the same color as the UN aircraft, so that when an airplane flies over one of these villages, their citizens don't know whether if it's a plane to help them or a plane to bomb them. And lately it's been the latter. This scorched earth campaign has claimed over 400,000 lives, has displaced 2.3 million people, and put 200,000 in refugee camps, stunned us through violence, disease, and starvation. There are 1 million more Darfuris in villages with threats of bombings, raids, murder, rape, and torture every day. They are all waiting on the United Nations peacekeeping force, waiting for someone to help them. The current humanitarian U.S. and international diplomatic efforts are not enough to end this. The Save Darfur Coalition has reported dire conditions of its inhabitants, and it's remarkable they have survived this long, because in the face of overwhelming hardship, with little progress towards resolve, only the efforts of the UN and humanitarian relief agencies have helped them. And these agencies consist only of 1,300,000 aid workers and 100 refugee camps, nowhere near enough the amount to end this. And these workers are also targeted by the military. They are in threat. Their lives are in threat every day as well. And if this humanitarian relief aid gets interrupted, this flow gets interrupted at any point in time, that can spark deaths, more deaths, on an even worse scale than we've seen. And that can put the death rate up to 100,000 people a month. When President Bush warned President al-Bashir that the U.S. would impose unilateral, targeted economic sanctions on the Sudanese regime if he would not end the genocide. And he estimated that to fund the peacekeeping and humanitarian forces to help all its citizens in need, it would cost our country $186 million. On top of the $6 billion it would cost us for our own humanitarian needs. I don't see that happening anytime soon. And his threats and his promises have still gone unfulfilled. And instead of making these threats and promises, we need to take action. And this will require strong pressure from the U.S., and the UN, and international diplomats. And there are certain areas where we need to focus our efforts in order to end this crisis. We need to have a ceasefire respected by all parties of the conflict. And there have been ceasefires issued in the past, but all parties violated them. And we need an effective and credible peacekeeping force to protect the civilians. This would require a full deployment of the UN and the AU, or the African Union, hybrid peacekeeping force, and also a renewed Darfur peace process. This would require a peace agreement with 4 main contingencies: a secure environment for the citizens, so if they do choose to go home, they can without worry, without threat, and a political agreement of the root causes of conflict, a termination and reversal of resettlement efforts by the government of Sudan. And there also needs to be accountability of all who have committed or commanded violations of human rights or international humanitarian law. And now you're all probably wondering how we're actually going to go about achieving these goals. Well, I'll let you know. First, the diplomacy alone will not end this crisis. We need our world leaders to put the peace in Darfur, make that a top priority. Our president needs to take a leadership role in the coalition of key international actors to force al-Bashir to end the killings. The Arab and African leaders need to take a proactive role in mediating an end to this crisis. The UN member states, they need to participate financially, logistically, or through contributions of troops and weapons and arms to do this just through an effective deployment of a peacekeeping force. And China actually comes into play here too. They have a major leverage with Sudan, and they're very uneasy that Sudan has all these weapons right now. And they are Sudan's top trading partner and have major oil investments in Sudan. And those investments are funding the Sudanese military. Without China, the Sudanese military would have no funding. And the humanitarian aid that is there needs to be sustained. They need a continued funding of aid and programs. And while all of this is a major step forward, it is unlikely that a formal peace agreement will translate into peace on the ground and relief for the millions of people in Darfur who have been displaced by the conflict anytime soon. There are many conflicts in Darfur, and there are many leaders who needed to act to end this genocide. Some think that if the peace deal fails, it will mean all-out war in Sudan. And Alex DeWall, who's an advisor of the African Union Group, said, if they don't sign, the horrors of the last years will be redoubled. Few doubt that al-Bashir's plan is anything other than a large-scale military offensive. While this may be true, there are still many things that you can do at home to help the villagers of Darfur. You can donate to a number of places: SaveDarfur.org, the PreventGenocide.org. There's many humanitarian aid organizations on the internet. And there's many groups, even in this area, that you can attend. You can go to meetings, you can go to councils, listen to speakers, learn more. You can speak it to your city council. You can go to school and speak among your fellow classmates, among anyone who's there who listen. Just spreading the word and letting everyone know what is actually going on in this area is a major step in ending this crisis. You can help save thousands of lives.